everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to our ALCSI podcast series. Today, we have the great honor and privilege of having Ms. Jackie Nixon and Ms. Gloria Linnertz with us. Jackie and Gloria, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you? Thank you for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. It's such an honor. Our team is doing great. And Gloria, how about you?
Good to see you, and I'm doing great, and thank you for having us here. We really appreciate this.
Well, thank you guys for taking time out of your days to be here with us. Your willingness to be here, it really means a lot to our team and to everyone listening. So we're really excited to hear about your stories and to learn more about radon. So to introduce myself and my team, my name is Priyanka Senthil, and with me I have Drake Long and Anish Gogilam. And we are part of the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative, or ALCSI for short. And we have a couple of slides to share about who we are. But before we go into our slides, I just wanted to introduce Jackie and Gloria before we move into our slides. And so I'll hand it over to Anish to introduce Gloria.
Gloria has devoted her life to radon education and awareness after lung cancer took her husband's life on February 8, 2006. Their house measured over 4 times the EPA radon action level. Sharing her story with others in the hope of preventing future radon-induced lung cancer deaths has expanded her acquaintances to include many legislators, industry professionals, government officials, and medical personnel throughout the nation. Thanks to her state representative, Dan Reitz, and the support of AARST, the president of the Illinois Home Inspectors Association, and others, the Radon Awareness Act was passed in Illinois on August 16, 2007, which has resulted in many more homes being tested and mitigating. Helping to activate the radon community with activities of awareness and education is an ongoing effort. Participating in TV and radio shows, writing newspaper articles, giving presentations to all types of groups, displaying materials and stories at home shows and conferences, and organizing events has been her life for the last 17 years. Attending numerous national conference of state legislators, helping to educate our state senators and representatives about the danger of radon exposure, participating in numerous state and U.S. hearings on the need for radon policies, the list goes on. In late 2013, she established a 501c3 nonprofit organization called Citizens for Radioactive Radon Reduction, or CR3 for short, to facilitate the spread of the facts about the danger of radon exposure. She's excited about the growing participation in CR3 and their electronic radon news magazine, CR3 Radon News, published by lung cancer survivor and Pennsylvania representative of their organization, Jackie Nixon. Gloria, we're so excited to have you on this podcast, and now I'll hand it over to Drake to introduce Mrs. Jackie Nixon.
Jackie Nixon is the Director of Marketing and Communications for CR3 and publisher of CR3 News Magazine and a Stage 1 lung cancer survivor. She holds an AS and a BA in Computer Technology and a BS in Computer Science with a minor in Mathematics from Edinboro University and an AS degree in Art from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. She's the CEO of ROIMarket Media, LLC, established in 2010. As a stage 1 lung cancer survivor, she never smoked and was diagnosed by accident in 2015 with no symptoms. This led her to eventually find high levels of radon in her building and to understand that radon is the #1 cause of lung cancer among never smokers. The revelation was the pivot point to her joining CR3 and creating and marketing the international publication CR3 News Magazine to get the word out. Her publication is read in the US, Canada, Europe, Africa, and Asia. She likes to say, "My entire being is now dedicated to letting others know that simple solutions to good health are obtainable through research and education."
Jackie and Gloria, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day to be on our podcast. I just wanted to share a couple of slides about ALCSI for those who might not know about our organization. ALCSI is a 501c3 nonprofit that works to raise awareness for lung cancer and lung cancer screening. We're a team of over 200 students and doctors located across the United States. And we do the work that we do because lung cancer is the deadliest cancer in the world, causing more deaths than breast, prostate, and colon cancers combined. Lung cancer causes about 380 deaths per day in the US alone. Lung cancer is very fatal because currently many patients are being diagnosed at a late stage when the cancer has grown and spread to other parts of the body. Lung cancer screening is an effective imaging technique that can be used to screen for lung cancer and has been shown to catch lung cancers early. However, less than 6% of people at high risk for lung cancer are currently getting screened. The screening rate for lung cancer is much lower than the screening rates for breast, cervical, and colon cancers, which are about 70%. We believe educating people about lung cancer screening is one of the most important and effective ways to increase the lung cancer screening rate for populations that would benefit from lung cancer screening. So far, we've given over 250 presentations on lung cancer and lung cancer screening to universities, hospitals, medical schools, and organizations around the US, as well as India, Canada, Brazil, and Mexico, reaching over 10,000 people. Over last year, we worked with over 335 mayors from every single US state to issue proclamations recognizing November as National Lung Cancer Awareness Month. We've also had the opportunity to work with several leaders at the state level, including multiple mayors, Arizona State Senator Leila Alston, who's a lung cancer survivor, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf, and Lieutenant Governor of Colorado Diane Primavera to issue public service announcements, emphasizing the importance of lung cancer screening. And in addition to our education, outreach, and advocacy efforts, we recently started this podcast series to share the personal side of lung cancer and provide a platform for lung cancer survivors and advocates to share their stories. ALCSI also worked with US Congress members and senators to draft and advocate for the first ever House and Senate resolutions recognizing the importance of the early detection of lung cancer through screening. And in December 2020, the US Senate passed a bipartisan resolution for the third year in a row, designating November 2022 as National Lung Cancer Awareness Month and expressing the support for the early detection and treatment of lung cancer. Senate Resolution 863 expands on previous resolutions by emphasizing the need for efforts to increase awareness of screening among veterans, women, and racial minorities. ALCSI has also actively worked with Representative Brennan Boyle and Senator Tina Smith to draft and advocate for Catherine's Law for Lung Cancer Early Detection and Survival Act of 2021. Lastly, we want to end by talking a little bit about lung cancer screening. Lung cancer screening is done using a low-dose computed tomography scan. This scan uses low radiation doses, is pain-free, and takes less than 5 minutes to complete. The United States Preventive Services Task Force, also known as the USPSTF, sets guidelines for who should be screened for lung cancer. And right now, they recommend that people between the ages of 50 and 80 who have a 20-pack year smoking history or more, and who are current or former smokers who quit within the past 15 years get annual low-dose CT scans. 1 pack year is defined as smoking on average 1 pack a day for 1 year, and therefore 20 pack years can be met by smoking, for example, 1 pack a day for 20 years or smoking 2 packs a day for 10 years. So if you know anyone who might be eligible for lung cancer screening based on the criteria listed on our previous slide, please encourage them to take our lung cancer screening eligibility survey so that they can learn whether they're eligible and also have the opportunity to connect with their team at ALCSI to guide them through the screening process. And finally, we want to highlight that there are other risk factors for lung cancer in addition to smoking, such as exposure to asbestos, a family history of lung cancer, COPD, and previous radiation therapy to the lungs. It's really important that we recognize these additional risk factors because a large number of people in the United States who have never smoked still get lung cancer. So thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to that quick presentation. And without further ado, we'll jump right into the podcast. We have a few questions prepared for Jackie and Gloria, but we will also have a Q&A session at the end where you all can submit any questions you have for them. And since we're so lucky to have both of you on the podcast today, our agenda is packed for today's podcast. And so we thought we'd start with Gloria's story and then Jackie's story before moving on to radon, if that sounds okay.
Thank you so much. Your organization is so impressive, and we're so happy to be here and to be part of you. And what you said was so very true a while ago about the non-smokers being diagnosed in late stage. So I'll start in with my story of why I'm involved with lung cancer. In early November 2005, through routine blood test, my husband's liver enzymes were elevated. The cardiologist who did the blood test indicated that it could be hepatitis C or cancer. And he suggested that we go to get a CT scan of his liver. With the results of the CT scan showing cancer, we were numb. We were so petrified. The next few days were filled with a liver biopsy, a colonoscopy, an endoscopy, a brain MRI, a lung biopsy, and then finally a PET scan of his entire body. In December before Christmas, we were told the lung cancer was in both lungs, in his liver, and in his bones. Joe asked the oncologist how long he may have to live, and the response was 6 to 12 months. And if he took chemo, it was 6 to 14 months. Joe's cancer was inoperable. I asked the doctor about a second opinion, and he said, "Why would you do that?" The answer would be the same. Joe opted not to take chemo. We asked the doctor what could have caused his lung cancer, because he hadn't smoked in 27 years, and we led a very healthy lifestyle. The doctor said, "We know radon is a known cause of lung cancer." We didn't know that. He may have known it, and other physicians may have known it, but we didn't know it. I felt very helpless and hopeless and alone. I'd called several organizations to see if we could get some advice, some help, some suggestions, or some hope. But they weren't very helpful to me or to us. The doctor said to Joe, "If you don't have a heart attack, if the chemo doesn't kill you, the lung cancer will." On February 8, 2006, which was about 6 weeks after we had found out about his lung cancer on stage 4, he died. So just 6 weeks after that, he was gone. I prayed to God to give me a reason to live. And 1 month after his death and his funeral, I heard on the Today Show, the morning show news, the mention of radon and lung cancer when Dana Reeves died. And that sparked my memory of what the doctor had said. We know radon is a cause of lung cancer. And that was the moment my radon advocacy journey began. March 8 of 2006. I tested our house. I had it mitigated. And I started advocating for radon reduction. So my advice to others is don't give up. Take advantage of all possible opportunities. The advancement in the lung cancer detection and treatment in the last 10 to 12 years has exploded. We have early detection can save lives. Numerous times, Joe had gone to the doctor and said, "Well, I have this cough." And it was poo-pooed as, "Oh, you probably have allergies." No, it wasn't allergies. You need to seek out lung cancer organizations that can give you advice. Now we have LungCan, which is Lung Cancer Action Network, and it's compiled of so many different organizations, lung cancer organizations, with updates and treatments that can help. And one of the things now that is so important is that for a lung cancer patient to get tested for biomarkers to see if there are specific gene mutations that can be treated with specific medicines. And of course, another big thing is the early detection can save lives. So I don't know if Jackie, you want to go to Jackie now?
Well, thank you so much, Gloria, for sharing about your husband and his story. It clearly is something that is still very hard for you. So thank you for sharing that, really personal story.
Thank you.
And I know a diagnosis like one of cancer affects really the entire family. And so could you talk about how you were affected by the diagnosis, and especially how you're able to find support and resources to get through maybe some difficult times?
Well, I did. I had, after Joe died, I had a CT scan of my lungs. I had a physician's assistant that was very sympathetic. I had a little cough, and so I did have a CT scan, and I certainly do advise that for anyone that has been exposed to high levels of radon and has symptoms. Go to your doctor first, of course, and see if that can be done. So I then realized, after finding out that our house had been, we'd been living here for 18 years with high levels of radon. I had no idea about it. So I did research on radon days and nights before, and in the meantime, when I was having the house mitigated, I just did all kinds of research, and I just couldn't stop. I wanted to find out what this was. And so I had a notebook, a very large notebook with all of the radon scientific studies saying how radon exposure can increase your chances of lung cancer. And I took that to my representative, my state representative, and I said, we have to have a law so that people don't buy homes with high levels of radon. And he gave me 1 hour to talk to him, and this was only a little more than 2 months after Joe had died. So I was very emotional and passionate. And he got a resolution passed almost immediately for awareness of radon, but it wasn't until later on in that year, actually, when he could file a bill. And with the help of some friends that I had made along the line, and networking is so important, because I really didn't know how to get a law passed. And so I was a previous teacher, and I went to my school, and I talked to the civics teacher, and he said, well, what you have to do is go to your representative and get him to introduce the bill. And that's what I did. And actually, a long story short, because it took about 1.5 years of educating the legislators in my state, and all of them I did. Actually, Barack Obama was a US Senator in my state at that time, and I had communicated with him too. This is funny too. It was Joe's and my 32nd wedding anniversary, August 16 and it was in 2007, when that bill, the Radon Awareness Act, I was told, someone had called me and said it passed both the House and the Senate. It had been 1 year that I had been working on it, a little more than 1 year actually. And I was tickled, and what a great anniversary present that was for me. So yeah, I've been affected, and I just devote my life to educating others about the danger of exposure of radioactive radon. So
It's really, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I don't know what else you want me to talk about right now. Maybe Jackie.
No, I was just gonna say it's really inspiring to hear about your efforts and how you came out of a really tough situation and really embraced a positive attitude about this. Um, it's really inspiring to see. Just for those of us in the people in the audience who might not exactly know what radon is, could you talk a little bit more about that?
Mhm. Well, first of all, I was very confident in my ignorance previous to this that radon wasn't in my house because we had a very tight basement and my house was only 20 years old at the time. And I knew so little about radon, but with all of my research and so on, I learned quite a bit. And over the years, I continue to keep learning. Radon is a radioactive gas. It comes from the decay of uranium in the ground beneath all of our structures, our homes, our schools, our churches, our workplaces. Any structure that touches the ground is susceptible to having radon come in through the cracks in the building, in the structure. It comes again from the decay products of uranium, and it comes in the form of a gas in any kind of little opening, and it's all over the nation. It can be actually in my state, it's about 41% of the homes have high levels of radon in the state of Illinois, but it is found. It has been found in every state in our nation, and it is all over the world. It's not just the US situation, it's a global threat. And so let's see what else. The only way to know if it's in your house is to test. I mean, because you can't smell it, taste it, or see it. And testing, most people are so ignorant of, like I was, ignorant of this fact that you might be living with this killer in your house and not know it. And it is, of course, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer, and the first in non-smokers. So let's see what else. Got any other questions for me?
It's really very interesting to hear about your work and how you work with senators and legislators. Could you talk a little bit more about that and whether there were any hurdles in getting the act actually passed?
Well, like I said, I worked for over a year. I started once I had was in April of 2006 when I saw my legislator. And I came up with a plan. I wanted, what was the word? I called it plan. It was a proposal. I wanted mandated testing at the point of sale for any home because, I had prayed to God to give me a reason to live. And when I found out that my home was high levels of radon, had high levels of radon, and after I had found out how dangerous that was, then I thought to myself, people have to know about this, and there should be a law. So I came up with this plan or proposal that all homes should be tested at the point of sale. And if the level of radon was 4.0 picocuries per liter of air or greater, it should be mitigated before occupancy. So I sent my proposal to all state legislators. And I also, and I hand wrote, I think it was 1,500 newspapers with my proposal. And addressed it. I didn't do it by computer. I addressed all those letters by hand and sent them to numerous newspapers throughout the nation. I think it was about 1,500. Took me quite a while. And a lot of newspapers published it. And but, and actually I can tell you that one senator nearby me, I visited, I called, I emailed, and I visited so many legislators in my nation, in my state. And one senator, when I visited his office, I talked to his aide, his assistant, and she actually got my proposal filed in Illinois, and it was the mandate. Okay, now it was never called, that proposal was never called in the, but the legislators knew about this proposal being filed, this mandate. And so when my representative heard about it, and I didn't know that it had been filed until a home inspector who was a friend of mine called and said, do you know that Senator Claiborne has filed this proposal? And I said, no, I didn't know it. So I called my representative and he said, well, Gloria, because this is a mandate, he said, I'm afraid it won't get passed. And he said, I need a bill that will pass this year. He was adamant about this. I mean, he was convinced. And so I said, well, so I went back to my friend Dallas Jones of American Association of Radon Scientists and Technologists. And I said, you know, we've got to have a bill that my rep will file and that he thinks will pass. So it turned out to be the Radon Awareness Act, and it was the first one that I was aware of, because back at that time in 2006, and I had searched all the bills out there for radon. There wasn't, the only bill that I could find that was anything near what I wanted was in Delaware. But so we came up with the Radon Awareness Act, which means now that anyone that buys a home in Illinois has to be given information about radon. They're given a pamphlet. The seller has to sign off on this document that says, I don't know how much radon's in my house. I've never tested, or I have tested and it's this much, or I've tested and mitigated and now the level is this much. And I might say that my level was 17.6. And after mitigation, I do a year-long test and it's usually 1 or something like that. So a mitigation system properly installed can reduce the level up to 99%. So going back to the proposal, it was anyone that buys a house now is given information on radon, and the seller has to reveal all information about that radon that he's aware of. And the buyer has to say, okay, I understand, and I would like to have a mitigation, a test before I buy it, or I'm okay with no test. But most people that have the test now in Illinois and the level is high, they mitigate. So mitigation is my, people's lives are being saved because of this law. And because they are mitigating and they're not living 30 years in a home with high levels of radon. And Minnesota also copied this bill, and Kansas, I think, copied it to a certain extent. The hurdles were just getting to the state capitol and talking to everyone and sending the letters out and emailing, and just it was, I guess the hurdle was just consistency and keeping up with it, not giving up, constantly getting that word radon and lung cancer out into the face of legislators and the news media and and neighbors and community leaders. So that's, I'm not sure what else you would like to hear. Maybe Jackie?
Thank you so much, Gloria, for sharing that. Your wealth of knowledge for radon is very interesting, and we thank you for that. And for walking us through your legislative journey. We admire the work you're doing and applaud you for how many lives you are saving through that law. But just bouncing back a little bit, we would like to ask you, for someone who has a loved one who was recently diagnosed with lung cancer, do you have any advice on how they can best support them or help them?
Well, my first thing that I would say is don't give up. You know, there's too many opportunities out there for treatment, good treatment, extending your years on this earth. Research, go to these lung cancer organizations. And one of the things that I felt so terrible, of course, Joe only lived about 6 weeks after the diagnosis, but I felt so alone, and I didn't feel like there was any help. I didn't feel like, you know, and I know that that's the way a lot of lung cancer patients and families feel. They feel like they're all by themselves. And also, so I say, don't give up, research, go out there and tell your story, and don't be afraid to get a second opinion, and don't be afraid to be your own advocate for your health. And I guess that's what I would say.
That's great advice, Gloria. I know a lot of the patients that we've had on our podcast have said very similar things, lung cancer survivors themselves, as well as their caregivers or family members, to say that it as soon as you're diagnosed with something like lung cancer, it's really helpful to be able to talk with other patients, hear how they went through, you know, maybe some difficult times, what challenges they face, what they learn, and it's really very valuable to be able to connect with others who are going through something similar. And I think the breast cancer community and with a lot of other common cancers, I think we've done really great in terms of building that community, but we're still working on building that for the lung cancer. And the community definitely exists, and there are support groups now and I would definitely, if anyone is in the situation, I would definitely recommend, you know, trying to connect with the local local cancer center, or seeing if there are support groups nearby, but that can really help. But also social media is a great way to also reach out to others and hear about their story. So
It
yeah,
really is. Yes. Social media has made a big difference with the communication of patients and survivors, and the support team of the patient.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Gloria, for sharing your story. I did want to move over to Jackie's story, but if there's anything that you want to add, you're more than welcome to. I did want to ensure that we have some time to go to hear Jackie's story, and then also talk about radon, because I know it's a very packed podcast. But thank you again for sharing all of your knowledge and your experience. It was really interesting to hear.
Thanks so much, hon.
So, hi, Jackie. Could you please talk about what your lung cancer journey was like?
Oh, absolutely. Mine is a little different in that as the patient, what had happened to me, and I call my story, I've always called it shingles, okay? The reason I did that was because I contracted shingles. Now, I never got sick. I never had the flu. I never got colds. As a matter of fact, I haven't had a cold in 6 years now. But what happened is that I got shingles. I had to go into the doctor's office. And as a result, they had to verify. She said, yes, okay, yep, you've got shingles. Gave me the medicine for that. But she said, but the fact that you haven't been in to see us in 18 months, because I never get sick, right? And you're over 65, you get to complain about 2 things like every year, and they'll check it out for free. Okay, that starts your Medicare kind of your record for that year. And believe you me, I am one serious healthy little mama here, okay? And I said, well, no, I don't have anything wrong with me. I'm fine. I said, but, I sing and, I have this ability to roll the note. So I can roll the note, but then when I get to the very end of that note, I can't hold that breath. And I said, and no matter what I try, just 6 months ago, I was fine. And then all of a sudden I can't hold that note like that. And I said, but that's okay. That's okay. That's just me sitting in front of my computer on my fat behind. And I just need to exercise my diaphragm. See, I'm healthy. I know everything about my health, all right? Overconfidence. So she says, well, are you coughing? And I said, no. She listened to my lungs. She said, they're clear. She, patted my lymph nodes and did all that. I'm good. And at the very last minute, she said to me later on, she said, do you realize we were both going to blow it off? Because really there was nothing there, super healthy. So she had her hand on the door. I remember that. And I was playing with my phone, looking at my texts and all this stuff. And she said, well, why don't we get a chest x-ray? Because you get something for free anyway. Got the chest x-ray. 2 days later, she came back and called and said, we found something. And she said, it looks like a tumor on the outside of the upper left lobe of my lung. And I was floored. I could not believe it. I mean, my first thought, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Now that's just on the x-ray. I'm already gonna die on the x-ray, right? So of course I had to go through, the different scans and whatnot, and it verified, yes, it was a tumor, it was cancer, so it was adenocarcinoma, and it was on the outside of the upper left lobe. And then when I had my consult with the thoracic surgeon, Dr. Bailey, he said that we're going to do a lobectomy, but we're only going to take, we thought we would only take half of the balloon, all right? But because there were some cancer cells on the seam of that balloon, they took the whole balloon just to make sure. With the PET scan, it showed no spread, nowhere else, there was nothing. So with that, I went in the hospital. That was in 2015, by the way. I was diagnosed as stage 1A, I think it was, or stage 1, whatever. And I went in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 3 days. They removed the upper left lobe. And after 3 days, I was home. They had me up walking around in the hospital the next day. And then I was home in 3 days. And then I couldn't go to work for 7 months. So, and just to let you know, the tests that you go through, you got to go through the breathing test and the heart test and, all those tests. I aced every test 200%, not 100. So it was no reason. And I remember that Dr. Bailey, he sat down and he said to me, very first thing was, and my sister was with me, so how do you think you got this? And I was thinking, I don't know, I'm thinking, you're the doctor, you're the medical person, you're supposed to tell me, right? But that was the one thing that got me to the next level, right? And I love Dr. Bailey. He is so good at what he does. So with that, again, home and no chemo, no radiation, no medication. The doctor just said, walk, walk, walk. He said, I believe you're so healthy, you're going to live to be 150 years old, which is my plan. Okay. So anyway, I went back to a board meeting and it was, hi, Jackie, how are you? I'm great. I'm fine. All this stuff. I said, but I said, the doctor doesn't seem to know where this came from. I didn't know anything about radon at that point, nothing. And so I said, I don't, I keep thinking about it, but I don't know, but I feel blessed that I'm only stage 1, all right? And so there was a home inspector there. And the home inspector said to me the magic words, did you ever hear of radon? The magic sentence. Okay. And I said, no, what's that? So he explained it to me. Now it's uranium, naturally occurring, comes out of the ground, decays, and then it seeps into the your home or your building and whatnot, through the cracks and whatnot in the foundation, etc. It accumulates, and it accumulates over years, but it accumulates. And the more you breathe it in, it can do damage to your lungs. And I can research the type of cancer that you have. And a lot of people, they just sit there and they just take whatever the diagnosis is, they sit there and just accept it. I'm not like that. Gloria's not like that. So I researched it. And when he told me about the radon, I went off and started researching that too. And I can't tell you, but I knew, because I'd been in my building for 38 years. It's more like 36, I think, but around that time. I was in there for that amount of time. And even though I'm in a building, I'm in a condo building, I live on the 3rd floor, right? But I have to go to the basement to do the laundry, and there's other things down there. So over 38 years or whatever, right? So what I did was I immediately became angry. And the first thing I did is that I took some of my own money, I call it my cancer money, but from loss of income, you get this insurance money, right? So I took part of that money and I had the building tested. I'm in a condo association, condo building. And I had the neighbors, because I was told you have to test at the lower levels, as close to the ground as you can get. So I had Rose on one side of the building and Stanley, who's directly underneath me, test. We quietly did this with the highest monitor, and they are continuous monitors. So they actually measure radon levels on a constant basis. And there were 3 of them. And then I had one put into my apartment. Rose, on the one side in the ground, her garden apartment, came out to 18 picocuries. Stanley's came out to 9 picocuries. Now, Stanley's wife died of lung cancer. And this was well beyond the testing we did. She had passed away, but she smoked, okay? And then my condo came out to 3 picocuries, right? So because I'm on the 3rd floor, it wasn't as high. Took that information and I turned it over to the condo association. Before I did that, what I did was I called 4 attorneys, because I'm like, I'm going to sue and this shouldn't be happening to me and I called 4 attorneys in different states and they all told me the same exact thing. There's nothing you can do about it. It's perfectly legal. No one is mandated to test. Well, that just inflamed me beyond your wildest dreams, right? So I called the association and I told them, and that's what they had recommended, call them, talk to them. And when I called the association that manages the entire plan, okay, they said, well, it's up to each homeowner to test on their own, because they're all privately owned condos. They're all privately owned townhouses. And I said, how can they test if they don't know anything about it? I said, we got to have a newsletter that comes out every month, and not one time in 30-something years has there been anything in there that says you should test your home for radon. Not one time. And I also know the other reason that it led me to believe that that radon could be a possible indicator was that we do diligence to the building. And if you're in a private condo, they will tell you by letter, we're going to come in here and change the fire extinguishers. We're going to paint. We're going to spray for bugs. Anything they do, you get a letter. We never got a letter that said, we're going to test for radon. All right. So what I did is, again, I called the lawyers. They said, there's nothing you can do. Those are the magic words to my advocacy first. And I thought, well, I know what I can do. All right. That led me down the path to find Gloria, but we'll get there in a minute. So what happened next is I turned it over to the condo association that manages my building. They retested and they used the Home Depot charcoal tests, and they tested all the ground floor apartments. And Stanley's apartment, because they told me, came out to, what was it, 13 picocuries, and Rose's came out to 21, just on the charcoal test. So they ended up mitigating. It took at least about 9 months to get it done, because it is a building, of course. They had brought the mitigators in, and we now have 6 mitigation systems on this building. What that means is they found 6 different sources of radon. All right. So that was my story. But what happened was, because of all of this, I decided that people need to know. I said, this is ridiculous, you know. And now I want you to go back on one thing too. Remember, I did not find out about the radon until after they took my lung out 7 months later. If that home inspector never said those words, "Did you ever hear of radon?" to me, I would still be sitting there in high levels. Okay. So that was key right there. So after that point, I decided I was going to build a sign, and I'm going to march up and down the street. And remember, I'm from the 60s now. So I'm going to march up and down the street, and I'm going to let everybody know about radon. But, you know, I'm going to find some awareness. So I started doing research on that. I found Gloria in CR3 and called her, and she called me, I think it was, and we started talking. And the first thing she said is, well, what is your story? It's very important to know that. And past that point, I told her the story, and she said, well, would you like to join CR3? And my history with CR3, that's how I got started. And that was 6 years ago. Now, past that point, 3.5 years after that, they found another tumor in my middle right bronchi on the other side. And bottom line, it didn't grow 1 iota, not even a millisecond. It didn't grow in 3.5 years, but it was sitting there. And well, I said, how did you miss this? And they just said, we missed it because we were so busy looking at the left side, you know, just really concentrating on it. We didn't see that tumor. So they actually lasered it off in 2 sessions. I'm still stage 1, no chemo, no radiation, no medication. So bottom line, that is my story. And that's how I ended up finding Gloria, who I call the Rosa Parks of radon.
It was a really great story. It was really fascinating to listen to. Again, just like Gloria, both of you have taken tough times and really powered through and found the positives in them to change other people's lives. So it's really, again, inspiring to listen to the both of you. So Jackie, you had mentioned that you use continuous radon indicators. Could you please talk about what other options there are and what people should do as far as where they can get the test and like where they place the test, things of that nature?
Sure. And I might have Gloria help me with this so I remember all, but there is the charcoal test, and that one you can get at Home Depot. It's about $20, I think now, maybe. There are places you can actually ask for free tests. They'll send you a test, and it's just a little not this big, it's not very big. And what you do with that test is you hang it in an area that doesn't have a lot of airflow. You know, you can't put it next to your fireplace or next to your washer and dryer, anything of that sort. And as close as you can get it to the ground. There are different types that you can use. and of the charcoal or those types. Then there's the continuous. And the continuous monitor are just actually devices, little devices that you plug it in. And what it does is it monitors the radon on a continuous amount of time. Now, the charcoal monitor, or the charcoal test, you hang that for maybe like 3 or 4 days. And then after that, you send it back in and they will send you the results for free. Okay, you don't have to pay anything. The continuous monitor, it actually monitors everything in real time. And there are different types. And Gloria, you can help me with some of the monitors because you know I say the older ones, but they're still good, mind you. And then there, of course, is the EcoCube, the ones that the newer ones now that hook Bluetooth to your phone, and you can literally see the the results on your phone on a regular basis. But the older ones, Gloria, what was the name of those? You're on mute.
There's all types of monitors. There's the short term, like you said, and they're usually the charcoal activated test kits. And there's all kinds. There's AccuStar, there's Alpha Energy, there's all kinds of these little kits that usually go about $10 to $30. And again, like you said, you can buy them different ones at the hardware store, or you can order them online too. And I think some of them have the same name as the smoke detectors. But other ones are called Alpha Track, and the Alpha Track is a little device, and it goes like up to 90 days. It's like a long term. I'm sorry. Pardon me. It's 90 days or up to a year. So the short terms usually go a few days, like Jackie said, and the long terms go 90 days up to a year, but not over a year. And they're kind of referred to as Alpha Tracks in the little device. And then we have the kind of newer on the market, like Jackie said, the real-time electronic monitors that can be activated on your phone. You can see the results on your phone, and those are Radon Eye, or there's another one called the Wave, and they are coming up, all kinds of different ones on that scale. And then the professional uses an electronic monitor. It's again continuous radon monitor, and they have various vendors produce those. So if you want to buy it, if you want to get a professional to come and test, he or she will use a continuous radon monitor, which looks like a little, sort of like a little radio or something. It's about the size of a small radio, but it gives you a printout of, or gives the professional printout of all the spikes and just over a 48-hour period, and you can see it. Now, you can also, with the little electronic monitors that are on the market today, you also see what your level is on a real-time situation too. The professional usually runs about $150 to $250, and you could find a professional by going to your radon program department in your state and see who the measurement professionals are. So you can do it yourself, or you can have a professional come and do it.
It's really good to hear that there are different options and that people can choose depending on their needs. So thank you for walking us through all of those options. That was very helpful. A really common question that we received from the audience is what to do if their house tests high for radon. What are the next steps? Who should they contact, and what does radon mitigation look like? So if both of you could talk a little bit about that, that would be wonderful.
Well, first of all, if after you test and the levels are high, you really should do a second test that would be more of a long-term test, like Gloria is saying, using the 90-day test or what, that type of thing. And then you want to mitigate. You absolutely really need to mitigate, okay? If the test runs 4 picocuries or higher, you should be looking at mitigation. You can call, there's a list. Now, the mitigators, basically all mitigators are certified. And they're certified through the state that you live in. There is a list of them, and you can get that on your state website and find someone in your zip code that would come out and talk to you about what to do about those high levels. If you're not sure, first of all, where to go or what to do, you can call your state, and they all have a radon website that you can go to and ask them. In picking a mitigator, he comes out, he will probably retest, make a longer term test. And then once they do that, one of the things they're testing for is they have to find the sources. And do not assume that because, say, your neighbor's okay, that you're okay. That may not be the case at all. So what you want to do is they're going to try to find the sources. Like I said, there were 6 underneath mine. That's what kind of took so long. And what they have to do is basically, and I always do it the basic way, is they take pipes and they'll shove it underneath the building, and that's where the source is. A pipe goes to the source, and then it goes out, and there's a fan that kind of sucks that gas out, and then they put a pipe up the side of the building, and then it goes up over the roof. So it's not coming into your home. And that's how the mitigation system basically works. And that's why it's important, because then, as a matter of fact, it lowered our levels at 18 to 1 just by doing that.
So my only comment here is if you get a measurement person or a mitigator, make sure they are certified professional and that they have the credentials saying that they have gone through the training and they know how to, they follow the procedure, the procedures, the approved procedures for testing or for mitigation. Make sure they're certified. And you can get those lists from your state radon program director.
Thank you guys for both sharing and answering that question about radon mitigation. But before we transition into more questions about radon and CR3, we would just like to add that, Jackie, we're so happy to hear that your cancer has stayed at stage 1. So just moving forward, we have a few more questions prepared for you guys about CR3 and radon. And our first question is, for those that don't know what CR3 is, could you guys speak a little bit about it and what you guys do as an organization?
I'll let Gloria do that one.
Okay. With the name Citizens for Radioactive Radon Reduction, that's who we are. We're people who want to make a difference, to educate others, to grow our the group of people that know about radon, to educate others. And one of the ways to do that, one of the best ways, as Jackie said, is by word of mouth. You tell others about radon. And so public health departments also sharing that information, and physicians. And Jackie has a great doctor who she has used many times on videos that now knows about the danger of radon. So what we do, who we are, is we just, some of us have had experience with lung cancer. We are just individuals who want to share the message that radon is a radioactive source that is a cause of lung cancer. It can easily be fixed. The radon can easily be fixed. Lung cancer is not so easily fixed. So Jackie, you want to add some stuff to that?
Well, as Gloria said, we are about education. All right, that's our big mantra. And the other part of that is assisting other organizations. One of the things that we know for sure is that basically CR3 is one of the only organizations that is grassroots, that actually just pounds the pavement about, do you know what radon is? Did you test? Let me get you in contact with this person, that person. This is what we do. We also help other organizations so that they have a radon piece. You know, you might be about the lung cancer portion of that, but we use us as the radon piece, and we can speak, you know, on your behalf or whatever. So we do that type of work as well. So that's what CR3 basically is about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jackie and Gloria. I also know, Jackie, that you're working on the PYA program. So that'll be an awesome opportunity to share about that. So would you be able to just talk a little bit about that program as well?
I would love to, because you young people just inspire me. So anyway, PYA is Premier Youth Ambassadors for Radon Reduction. We just say PYA. What it is we started an initiative last year in March, and it kind of just really fell into our laps, but it's a group of young people that are doing amazing things on their own with the study of radon. I mean, they started out, for example, we have one young man whose mother died of radon-related lung cancer in 2020. And then by the time, when she passed away, he decides at the age of 16 to start his own nonprofit. And then he got a board of directors for the nonprofit that they're all in high school, every one of them. And so what they did is they put up there, okay, need a test kit? You could order it here. And then they just mailed them out. In 2 years, over 500 test kits. So they did amazing work. Excuse me. So they gave, we gave them an award. We have another young man that is started his own nonprofit, and it's not everybody starting nonprofits, but he loves animals. So he found out that radon affects animals. And so he hooked into it, and he literally joined us. So we have different people that are really, these young people that are working on this. What we do with them, with their projects, they come to us and they say, I've got a project. Then we pair them with somebody in the industry that can help them to carry that project even further. We had another one, Tanya in Utah. She spoke to over 500 people, including, you know, her local legislator, you name it, about radon. So we help them to get their projects to fruition. We are looking for more youth. By the way, they're from 15 to about, I'd say up, just up, because we have college students in there too. We are looking for more for this year, and we want to promote them, but keep the radon awareness going. By doing this, we hope to grow new young people in the radon awareness arena. So that's what it is. Just one second, get some water.
So we had talked about earlier the importance of early detection and radon. So how can lung cancer screening efforts be coupled with radon awareness efforts?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's one of my biggest advocacy concerns. The one thing that can happen to me, right? We know because we have an EPA radon map that will tell you the EPA radon zones, right? The old map is red, yellow, and orange. If you look at Pennsylvania, quite a bit of Pennsylvania, which is in the top 5 with the highest levels of radon, you can see Allegheny County that I live in is in that red zone. That means over 4 picocuries in most of the testing, right? So to me, when I go to the doctor, I should be able to, you know, how you fill out that form that, you know, if you're diagnosed, did you smoke? How many packs? And they go through, it's like 3 or 4 pages of the stuff, right? Why not put on that form? Did you ever hear of radon, right? Do you know about radon? Did you test your house? If the person says no, then, oh, excuse me. If the person says no, then when you do like your patient navigator or whatever, when you have to go to that person and you talk about your insurance, you talk about all these things that, you know, that have to do with your lung cancer journey to start it, what you can do is say, here's a pamphlet that talks about radon. They can read it and tell them, read the pamphlet and give them a number that test your home. All you have to do is look at the map and say, you're in an at-risk area, right? You lived in your home, how many years? 36 years. Give the patient something at that point. So that's one of the things that I'm really pushing for. It's very simple. And I know the doctor does not have time to explain it to you, but give them something that they can read, they can take home and go get their home tested. When I tested mine and I got the results, you know what I did? I gave the results to my doctor. And he said to me, what do you want me to do with this? And I said, put it in my folder. That's it. So the next time when they found the tumor in the bronchi on the other side 3.5 years ago, he said to me, and this one is not radon related. And I'm thinking, oh, so you looked it up. That's called forced action. So something that simple could save lives.
Thank you so much, Jackie and Gloria, for taking time out of your day to share your stories and knowledge with us. Now I'd like to open the floor for our participants to ask you any questions they may have regarding your story, and of course, if you feel comfortable answering them. So if anyone would like to ask Jackie or Gloria a question, please put it in the chat or just simply unmute.
I received a question from the audience before we started the podcast, and they asked if you could sum up your lung cancer journey in 1 sentence, what would that be? And I think this question is open to both Jackie and Gloria, so we'd love to hear from both of you guys.
All right, Gloria, you go first.
Okay. I think that my experience was sent to me by God. That's 1 sentence. I think it was a mission.
With mine, I think the biggest thing was my 1 sentence to all of you is manage your health and test your home for radon. Do not wait. Do it right now.
Thank you both for sharing. It's all the advocacy work that both of you have worked on is truly amazing and is definitely saving lives and involving doctors, involving state leaders, legislators, and youth. I think everything that CR3 is doing is just so important. And if we can bring awareness about radon and couple it with lung cancer screening efforts. I think those go hand in hand, and that can really help save lives. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And then another question that we received is, what are the current challenges within the lung cancer community that in your eyes?
Well, for me, the biggest challenge, and still is a challenge, I think, and Gloria can confirm this, there are still so many people that do not believe that radon is a threat because they can't smell it, they can't taste it, they can't see it. So when you talk to them, it's like, well, yeah, okay, I'll do it, and then they don't do it, right? So they're still not paying attention. And that is a big issue. But I've learned over time, one of the things is that, of course, radon affects pets, right? We've learned that addressing them from the pet level and saying, do you realize that your pets are also, and they're at the lowest levels of the ground, they're at risk too. Their ears perk up. Their ears perk up. And sometimes you can get the word out a little bit better by thinking about it out of the box ways to, put this before people. So, Gloria?
I think that just basically like Jackie said, the apathy by individuals not to test, not to be concerned about radon, and governments, the apathy of governments not to take action for radon reduction. It's just the apathy until people get excited. I did hear one time that the legislature, once they know people are concerned about something, that's when they act.
Yeah.
So I'm all for letting your legislators know your concerns.
Thank you, Gloria, Jackie. And one more question, and this podcast is very timely because January is National Radon Action Month. And so even though we're near the end of January, is there anything that people can do right now to help raise awareness about radon, or in the coming months? What would be your pieces of advice if the people listening are wanting to get involved in the advocacy efforts?
Well, first of all, the advocacy efforts are very simple. They're not complicated. We have something, CR3 has something called the Radon Challenge. And the Radon Challenge is for each and every one of you to just go to your neighbor and just say, did you ever hear of radon? And if they didn't, then you can give them call 1-800-SOS-RADON, or they can go to your state website. That kind of thing. As far as the advocacy portion for us, CR3 is really truly trying to recruit more folks that will work with us, either, for example, in the organizational level. All right. We have a network called the Clear Network, and the Clear Network, the idea behind it is to get all organizations on the environmental side of the house, as well as the medical side of the house, to join the Clear Network. And everything in the Clear Network, when people go in and search and say, I need to know about KRAS, it automatically will go to your area within that network, find your services, and then that person can call you or chat with you immediately. One of the things I found as a patient, I had a hard time trying to find out all I could about my type of cancer. I didn't even know how to pronounce it. And it was just on me. Like Gloria said, everything was on her to just do. We need to come together. So we're looking for more that will join us in this advocacy battle. Gloria?
I think you covered it all. One of the things that I've done recently is put a letter into the editor of newspapers about Radon Action Month being January and testing. So it's amazing how many people still read the newspaper. So it is a good idea, and just letting everybody know that your neighbors, your family, and making sure that they test, because testing is so easy and it could very likely save a life.
Yeah.
What are the two of you looking forward to the most in the next couple of months?
Whew. What am I looking forward to? Go ahead, Gloria, you first.
Well, Jackie, again, she puts out, I help a little, but she does most of the work. The magazine, we have CR3 Radon News. It comes out about 6 times a year, and we just got the January issue out, and the February issue is it's probably going to be devoted to women or minorities. It usually is in February, and of course lung cancer and radon. And so that's coming up in February. And there's various meetings that we will be attending through the year. We'll try to go to the National Conference of State Legislators again this year, and also the International Radon Symposium. Those happen in August and then in October. And there's some regional radon meetings that we will probably attend to coming up. So growing our organization, getting more young people involved with the PYA, and being part of you guys. This is so great, and we're so tickled and so in admiration of what you're doing. It really is great. Thank you for it's exciting and it's amazing. So thank you again.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, our calendars. We have our Radon school calendar we put out every year for the schools. And you can see them back here. I have the whole list back there. And we started that in 2020, I think it was. And each calendar has, on each month, this one in particular has superheroes. And the superheroes all have names. And with those names, they're all environmental names like Eco and Pico and, that kind of thing. It's to educate the kids, and they will have a calendar that when they hang it on their wall, it will talk. It has something in there about radon. For example, last year was the Radon Challenge. Okay, so we decided it's time to challenge these little kids to do something. They can do it. So, for example, the very first one, September, they open it up and it says, ask your teacher, has your school been tested for radon? Probably open up a whole can of worms, but that's okay. All right. Forced action. And then there's other things like November, which is National Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Send a card to somebody else. But those radon the radon rivals, which we call our group of superheroes, you're going to see that continue for this year. But what we want to do with that is kind of animate the story that goes along with it. You could purchase the calendar. Now, of course, we do it from September to September. So it's like 6 months out now. But bottom line, it's been a huge success. And it's based on the CRCPD radon poster contest that they have every year. And every state can get involved in it. Then they give us the rights to pick the best posters. And there's a picture of each poster on the top. And we make calendars out of them for some of the winners. They pick winners and they win something. And so we've got our picks for this year. We're doing the calendar again. Would love to have you guys help us design this calendar. We're working on animating some things. Come on, join us. Come on.
That is so lovely. I just love the idea of the radon superheroes. It's such a creative idea to teach kids and students about radon and really encourage them to strike a conversation about radon at schools and at homes. Because if we're able to teach kids about radon, then we're raising awareness about radon from the beginning, and hopefully, in the next couple of years, getting your house tested for radon is just something that everyone routinely does And so I think that's just so critical. And we, at ALCSI, we would love to collaborate with you, Jackie and Gloria, as always.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you. I think this is a great place to wrap up our podcast. Thank you guys so much. I personally learned a lot, and I hope that our listeners also learned a lot about radon. And also thank you for sharing your stories with us as well. Each of the stories that we hear about are just so unique, and all of the experiences and knowledge that you're able to share with everyone really helps, especially for those who might be going through something similar. So thank you again once more. And then I think Drake will help us close out. But if Jackie, Gloria, if you have any other things that you wanted to share about CR3 or about yourselves, please feel free to.
Just that if you're interested in joining CR3 and it doesn't cost you anything, not really, just contact me or contact Gloria, and we'll talk with you from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Again, just to reiterate what Priyanka said, thank you guys to the both of you for your willingness to share your story and perspective on many of the pressing issues in the lung cancer and radon community. We appreciate the work that you are doing to help raise awareness about radon and applaud the work you've done through CR3. We're both wishing you success in the new year. And thank you everyone for joining our podcast. Please keep an eye out for our upcoming podcasts and events, which will be listed on our website, www.alcsi.org. Also, before we end this, we would like to offer a brochure highlighting some key information about lung cancer and lung cancer screening. So if you find this helpful or know of someone who might benefit from the information included, feel free to share it. Just one last note, our next podcast will be on February 11th from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time with Dr. Wade Eames, who is a thoracic medical oncologist and translational lung cancer researcher at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie and Gloria.
You're welcome.